Good morning and welcome to the Magic Software webinar on the Magic MDM solution. I hope you can all hear me very well. We have, I'm afraid, had a few problems with the audio recently, so please contact me via the chat function if you have any difficulties. I will be watching it throughout the presentation. So today I'm going to be showing you a quick introduction to Magic and the Magic MDM, and then I'll be handing over to my colleague Andrew Aldis, who's going to show you a live demonstration of just what capabilities we can offer. So, without further ado, Magic MDM. Magic has been around over 30 years. We're listed on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange. We're not really one of the newest players on the block, but we have become very good at adapting to all the latest trends and technologies. We believe that by focusing on business needs rather than simply technical specs, we can offer much better value. And we support over 2,500 partners across 50 countries and a huge number of clients from our 15 global offices, which are spread from North South America, throughout Europe, South Africa, and Asia. As for our MDM, we believe that the real challenge is that enterprise mobility is fueled by consumerisation of IT, BYOD, and whether that's people bringing their own mobile devices or demanding more choice in corporate provided ones, IT managers have to deal with increasing fragmentation of devices. That's to say that there's more different types, different platforms, different ecosystems, different sizes. They have to handle the security of them, because it's all very well to say, I like this one, that's what I want to use, but in the enterprise world we've got a lot of compliance and security risks, so we have to be able to secure at the device level, the data level, the user access, applications, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today. Of course, also provisioning, control and monitoring, and Andrew will be showing you exactly how easy it is to do that with our solution. We also believe that mobility has requirements beyond simply phones. We have to have secure access to enterprise data, and it must be reliable with very high availability. The whole point of mobility is you can work where you want, when you want. Why would you accept anything less? The user experience is critical. It must go beyond simply a nice interface. It has to become intuitive and native, available, and work offline. We believe that time to market is critical, that any trends that are emerging in the market have to be addressed very quickly. For example, if Google Glass takes off this year, do all enterprise applications need to be rewritten for that, or can we deal with it a different way? Regardless, it has to be dealt with quickly so that we don't lose competitive advantage. Security, as I mentioned, has to be handled across the application, device and user level. So typically this is done through encryption, authentication and MDM solutions. So it's a multi-layered security. And then management capabilities are critical, so we are talking about enterprise devices. So maintaining, managing the applications, the users, monitoring what they're up to, provisioning as and when they're needed. And of course, we believe that it's much easier to deal with many of these issues when you have an experienced partner who can help you through the entire life cycle. So our MDM solution and the enterprise mobility as a whole fits within a broader portfolio. So we have our two big platforms, Magic XPA for application development and Magic XPI for business and process integration. The MDM is then able to deal with the actual handling of devices, whereas the two platforms really deal more with how you get processes working together and pushed out to mobile, and then all of that supported by our professional services. The MDM product has four key components: the monitoring capability, management, support and security. All of these work together to give a holistic package. It's works by connecting devices, management consoles and servers through the internet. And here really the features, kind of a bit of a highlight of what we're going to be seeing in a minute, showing you that we're able to handle the asset management, content management, security. Geofencing is a particularly interesting demonstration. Remote control as well, particularly on the Android, is quite powerful. And we're able to deal with detecting jailbreaking of phones, for instance, is a major security risk in many cases, and you can have two-way chat and messaging for live support. So the benefits are that our solution works across the different mobile platforms. We have the most advanced Android support in the market, which Andrew will demonstrate. We're very innovative functionality. We're very flexible in how we deploy, whether it's cloud or on-premise. We have thousands of proven deployments, and it's really your one-stop shop for enterprise mobility needs. So why us? We believe that we have a leading MDM solution. We have a low total cost of ownership through process automation. And since we have the platforms and services and able to support the integration and application development management, it really is your one-stop shop for enterprise mobility. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Andrew, who will be giving you a live demonstration of how this works. Go ahead, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Oh, excellent. Sorry, thank you, Tom. Thanks for that introduction. Yeah, so I'm just going to show you a demonstration, a real high-level overview of SOTI, the kind of things that Tom's been talking about. So first and foremost, this is the Mobi Control console. This is what an end user, IT manager, administration staff, whoever it may be, will be faced with on a daily basis. As you can see straight away, it is a web portal. The reason for it being a web portal is twofold, really. One, ease of use. That's probably the biggest thing. As we move more and more into SME market, all this type of industry, we're finding more and more companies don't have a solid IT infrastructure in place in terms of personnel. So we try to make the system as easy as possible so that anyone can really administer the system. We reckon that a 2-hour training session with our technical support team and anyone will be absolutely proficient in this service, which is really key. The other reason it's web portal is because we now have this multi-user, multi-tenancy access. So as you can see in the top right-hand corner, I am logged in as Andrew, but you can set up as many users as you want, each with different credentials, and each of those users you can assign the ability to do what they want with the console. So whether it's just viewing devices, whether it's changing configuration, whether it's viewing certain folders and certain devices, it's completely granular and completely up to you. You can have as many as you want, so if you've got people in the field who need access, they can all access the system as well remotely. So a really, really key thing. Just to run around the system very quickly, you'll notice at the top here we have our different tabs. As Tom mentioned in his presentation, Android Plus is our real unique thing. So Android Plus was started because we did a partnership with Samsung 4 years ago, where we basically built the whole API stack for Samsung devices. Our IP is actually built into every Samsung device that comes out of Korea or China, and it just means that we have pretty much a blank canvas. Whatever it is the user thinks they need in terms of security, we are 99% confident we can provide it under Android Plus. It just opens up the device to everything. We say that we started with Samsung, which we did, and we initiated their SAFE program. We have since rolled it out to about 23 other OEMs in the Android space. Manufacturers such as HTC, LG, Lenovo, Motorola, Toshiba, and it's continually growing. As you appreciate, the Android market is incredibly fragmented, and every day there's a new Android OEM on the market, and we are constantly trying to get as many manufacturers as we possibly can certified for Android Plus. The next one down is just generic Android, and the two major manufacturers that fall under generic Android at the moment are your Sony devices and your Google Nexus devices. Unfortunately, Google Nexus will always come under generic Android because they're Google, and that's what they assign. Sony we are working with at the moment to move them into Android Plus, and the next month they probably will become Android Plus as well, which is great news. We then have iOS, and this covers all the way up to iOS 7, the latest version, and will obviously include iPads as well. Windows Phone 8, so this now includes the new Windows Phone 8 devices, and that's evolving all the time, and in May time we expect that to grow again as Microsoft release more APIs into the market. We have Windows Desktop and Laptop, and we will cover anything from Windows 98 all the way up to Windows 2008 Pro. The only device we don't do at the moment in this tab is Windows RT, and again that is on a roadmap, and we hope by May time RT will be included as well. And then our final tab is really our legacy, Windows Mobile 6.1, 6.2 CE. At SOTI, that's where we kind of started. That was our bread and butter. Being 15 years old, this gives us real longevity in the MDM world, but obviously it meant that we started in the Windows Mobile space. We currently now have about a 95% global market share on Windows Mobile devices, and all the kind of big companies like DHL, Royal Mail, UPS, whoever it may be, pretty much most of the postal services around Europe will all be using Mobi Control on their Windows Mobile ruggedized devices. So everything I'm going to show you today will be on an Android Plus device, but I will explain the differences between each operating system as I go through. What you'll notice straight away with the console is that when a device populates or enrolls, it will automatically enroll under its correct tab. So if it's an Android Plus, so a Samsung or one of those other manufacturer devices or tablets, it will automatically enroll under Android Plus. What you'll see is obviously the device name, you'll get battery status, memory, system storage, the IMEI, phone number if it's available. If there's something you want to see at a quick glance, you've just got to tick columns, and then you can tick pretty much whatever you want. And then you can have that on the main console. At the same time though, if we go to the right-hand side, we can go to information, and we can pull off pretty much anything about the device. So whether it's the Wi-Fi signal strength, the battery status storage, what OS version it's on, even down to things like whether the device is enabled for roaming or if there's a passcode set on the device. So really good just for asset management, just to keep a log or an audit of what is going on your devices. The most important thing about Mobi Control is the left-hand side. We do everything on a folder policy basis. So when you first install the system, it might take you a bit of time to set up your folders because you can have as many as you want. But once they're set up, it should make the system pretty much manage itself. So you have your parent folder and your child folders. If you apply a policy to your parent folder, obviously all folders will inherit that policy. But the idea being that you might have a board of directors, a sales team, an HR team, an IT team, whatever it may be, all of whom are going to need differing levels of security on their devices. The last thing we want to do is if someone moves from one department to another, is have to change the policies on the individual device. So we set up the policies on the folders with the policies we want, and then it's just a case of dragging and dropping devices from one folder to another, and I'll show you that in a minute. Probably the key functionality of Mobi Control, and Tom touched on this again, is our remote control functionality. So within Android Plus and Windows Mobile, we have this, what we call remote control. This was actually invented by our CEO about 15 years ago, originally called Pocket Controller, and it's basically the ability in real time to log on to a device wherever it is in the world. The device can be on any network connection, so whether it's GPRS, 3G, 4G, or Wi-Fi, it doesn't make a difference. Some of our competitors have taken our API for remote control and embedded it into their software. So when our competitors say they can do remote control, yes, they can. but the comparison between our remote control and their remote control is night and day. Some of the key things we do, so one of the biggest things is we don't just map the software, we map the hardware as well. So all the hardware keys work in exactly the same way as if the device was in your hand. So I can do things like turn the volume up, turn the volume down. So it is just the same as having a live device in my hand. Really, really powerful tool for support, because quite often in support call centers or support desks, the person running the support call may never have seen the device that the end user is using. So when the end user is telling them they're pressing buttons and all that, they have no idea what they're doing. So by having the physical phone and seeing what they're doing, because whatever I press on the phone happens on the screen, I get a real live image of what's going on, and it just makes it a much more powerful support tool. So us mapping the hardware is unique to us in that sense, so skinning the actual device. Other things we do, we can take a video at any time. So we can actually record a video of what's going on the screen at any point. Really good for training purposes, maybe for diagnostic purposes, whatever it may be. We can take a screenshot at any time. So actually take a screenshot of what's going on the device. Probably the most important thing is the fact that we can change down the color scale. One of the big issues with remote control over the years is that it uses a lot of data. So essentially, a minute's worth of remote control session will use about 1 megabyte data in highest color, this 32 bits. One of the major advantages we have is the ability to change down that color. This is unique to us. The other competitors don't do this. So if someone's on GPRS or 3G, if they're on GPRS and you're running a session in remote high color, you'll have a huge lag on the device. So when you press something on here, it'll take about 30 seconds for it to change on the device, which becomes almost impossible to work with. So all we'll do is move it down to grayscale. Doesn't look as good, but it's still manageable. But one, that will stop the lag from happening, and two, it also means that it will reduce the data intake from 1 megabyte to about 150K, which is going to be a huge saving when someone's out on their network tariff. Other things we can do with remote control, and real key things and unique to us, the biggest one is we can dive into the file directory at any time of the device. So at any time, completely remotely, the IT manager can log onto a device and look at the file structure. If there's an ini or a log file that they need to update, they can do this on the fly on the device, or they can pull that file back from the device to the server, update it on the server, and then send it back to all devices. The other thing we can do is set up a file sync rule. So it might be important that as an end user, a customer might need to get certain information from that device every day, whether it may be a photo that an engineer's taken or a log file or some document, and you don't want to have to rely on the end user uploading that at the end of each day. So we can set a file sync rule to say at 8 p.m., as long as the device on Wi-Fi or whatever it may be, pull this file back to the server. And it will pull it back to a file structure on the server, which will replicate the devices within Mobi Control. So it's all organized and all tidied up. So it's very easy to access and see what's going on the devices. The other key thing is on the right-hand side is our application manager tool. One of the big issues with these shiny devices, as I like to call them, is that you give them to end users. Some of the end users might not be so tech savvy, and they got lots of buttons they can press. Inevitably, they're going to press these buttons. What it might do is crash an application in the background. They won't know what they've done, but the device will really slow down and not work properly. All you need to do is go on to the application manager tool, right-click, and you can kill the application remotely, which will kill the application in the background and return the phone back to out-of-box state, which is really, really important. Excellent. Let me just close that down a second. Cool. So, as I said, obviously, the policies are the most important thing with Mobi Control, depending on what you want to do. So, one of the biggest things that we find with customers is the ability to blacklist certain applications. So, a lot of companies will give out the shiny Android devices or iOS devices, but they don't want their end user just going on the Google Play Store, the App Store, and downloading Angry Birds, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it may be. So all we do is run an application run control. And here we can literally just go to new, call it whatever we want. So it could be social media, it could be anything, and we can blacklist. And all you need to do is type in the name of the application. What you'll notice is we've pre-populated it all with the script, the control, so there's nothing else you need to do. So it's as simple as just add in as many applications as you want, and we will automatically then just blacklist these applications. We press OK, then any device within this folder will automatically remove those applications. What we can also do, which is new to our version 11, which is what we're running now, is we can actually whitelist now. So if an organization says, actually, we don't want anything on the device apart from the applications we've permitted, so again, it might be, so an organization might want just Facebook on the device. So all they'll do is whitelist the applications they want, and then on the device, every single application will disappear apart from the ones they've whitelisted. And I'll show you very quickly how that works. So if I now move my device from my staging folder to my, just going to refresh here very quickly. If I move it from a staging folder to my corporate liable blacklist folder, what you will notice is pretty much instantaneously, applications that I don't want on the device will disappear. So I've set the policy to say remove Facebook, Twitter, a few other applications, and as you can see, they just disappear off the device. Simple as that. Important to note here, we're not uninstalling the applications, we're just blocking the path to those applications. So we're not destroying any personal data, we are just stopping the user using those applications. If an end user thought they were clever and thought, I know, I'll go to a website, I'll download the APK, and I'll sideload it onto the device, all that would happen is the device would suddenly pop up with a message saying, you are not allowed to access this APK. So there's absolutely no way the end user can get that application onto the device once it's been blacklisted. As I mentioned, we also can do the whitelist. So again, if I move it into my whitelist folder, what you will notice on the device is suddenly every application will disappear from the device apart from the applications that I have said are permitted. So in this instance, I've said I will allow Facebook and Twitter. I can't imagine there's many organizations which will allow only Facebook and Twitter on a device, but it's good for demo purposes. So as you can see, everything has disappeared now apart from Facebook and Twitter. So if I scroll across, Mobi control will be on there because it's always on there. And there was also a settings button. We don't remove that icon. If I press on the settings, it will say security policy restricts change in settings. So they don't actually have access to the settings. So there are only two icons. That is it. There's nothing else they can do with that device. So that's a really, really powerful way of controlling what's going on your corporate liable devices. The other things we can do, obviously we can push out corporate applications to a device. So again, very important in the corporate sense that you might have an enterprise application that you need to get to devices remotely. The last thing you want to do is have to pull in all your devices every time you need to do an update to a piece of software. So within Mobi Control, we actually include something called Package Studio. And Package Studio is very simple. It's a very simple piece of software. And all it does is take your APK files, your CAD files, your EXE files, your MSI files, whatever it may be, and truncate them all down to a tiny little package, which you can then send to whatever devices you want. So you can send it to a folder, you can send it to an individual group. But the key thing is, within that, you can do all sorts of things. So for example, if I go to my package deployment right here, and right-click, create package deployment rule, again I give it a name. I choose what package I want. So obviously we would have created the package, so I can call it APK test, for example. I click on next. I choose which folder I want to send this to, so it might be my push corp apps. And here I can choose all sorts of things. So whether I install the package immediately after download, whether I make it a scheduled installation. It might be that you only want packages installed after midnight, so when people are not working. It might be that you don't want to push the package immediately, you want to delay it a little bit. And you might want to only use Wi-Fi. So you can change all these things to make it customizable and perfect for you as to when a package is deployed. We can also put scripts on the package to say things like, only install this package if this version number supersedes the previous version number, whatever it may be. But the beauty of this is that we can do this all completely remotely. So there is absolutely no need to bring in a device back into the office just to update a package. And again, if I show you, I've told it to install certain packages. So all that should happen is it might take a few seconds depending on the size of the package, but what I've told it to install will automatically install on the device, and I've told it to automatically open that application as well. So hopefully in a few seconds you'll see suddenly, I think it's probably LinkedIn, will install on the device and automatically open. So completely remotely, the device can be anywhere in the world as long as it's got a network connection. Obviously, if it's only GPRS, it's going to take longer just because of the network. So that's a really, really key thing. While it's doing that, and that will work in the background, I will also show you some of the other things we can do. So on Android Plus, as I said, we've pretty much got blank canvas. We can do pretty much anything we want with the device. So whether it's antivirus, so we do full antivirus and anti-malware. We actually partner with a third-party company called WebRoot to do all our virus definitions and malware. We are the only MDM company who include antivirus in the license cost, so there's no added extra for that. It just comes bundled in. We are still the only MDM company who can silently remove malware from a device. So all that will happen is Mobi Control and the console will continually sweep your estate for viruses. If it detects a malware, it will automatically remove it. If it detects a virus, it will automatically quarantine it, and it will give you a list of the viruses it's detected. Obviously, we can push out certificates to a device. We got file encryption. One of the new things we've now added to Mobi Control is something called Knox container, and this is a Samsung feature. So Samsung have done something called Knox, which essentially is splitting the phone in two. So it's having a personal side on the phone and a business side. So it saves you now carrying around two devices. You can have one device which will do both your personal and business. And the corporate container is completely secured, and there's no leakage between the corporate container and the personal side of the phone. Very much like how BlackBerry used to do it. Application run control I've shown you. We also can do things like feature control. So pretty much any feature we can disable or enable. So whether we want to get rid of the camera, whether we want to block our OS upgrades, disable factory reset, enforce GPS. Applications, we can obviously, by default, the removal of the Mobi Control agent is disabled. Even things down to blocking roaming data, or even just blocking data completely. So pretty much we can control any feature within the device, which is really, really powerful. I will show you lockdown in a second. Other really clever little things, and this is becoming more and more important, is our phone call policy. We always have customers who say to us, we have a nightmare with the networks because the networks won't block things like 118 numbers. 118 numbers cost the company an absolute fortune because employees don't seem to realize that if they get connected through on a 118 number, it's going to cost a lot of money. And because they're not paying for the bill, they don't seem to mind that much. So what we can do is deny or allow. So deny, incoming, outgoing, or both. And again, we just add a number. And again, we can do wildcard numbers. So if we do 118 star, that will block every 118 number being dialed from the phone. We can do 08 star. And that will block every 0800 number being, or 0875 or 0450, whatever it may be. You could be really mean and do 0 star. And that will block every number being dialed from the phone apart from emergency services. So you've got real budgetary control over your phone calls, which is really, really neat. We also have full web filter. So again, we use this through WebRoot, and we have the ability to basically block categories, so we can block pretty much anything we want, but we also have the ability to whitelist websites. So it might be you only want your users to use specific websites, so we can just whitelist certain URLs. We can also put in a forward page, so again, just an HTML template or a URL that will just do a forward page, so whether it's back to a main domain or whatever it may be. And then we have our standard MDM requirements. So email configuration, obviously we can push out any POP3, IMAP4, whatever email account. We can also fully integrate with Active Directory. So if you use Active Directory, we can fully integrate with that and your AD server. And then we got our APN, VPN, and Wi-Fi settings. So as you can see, a heck of a lot we can do with Android Plus, and I'll show you the differences as I go down. You'll also see here now on the right, my applications are fully installed and fully opened. So if I go back to my main screen, you will see that LinkedIn is there, and also somewhere will be Dropbox as well. All fully installed now, completely remotely, no end user interaction needed whatsoever, which is probably the most important thing. The last thing I want to show you on this is our kiosk mode. So kiosk mode is our real granular lockdown of a device. So it's the ability essentially to take a device and change the UI of the device. So all we do is skin an HTML template over the UI, and it's absolute lockdown. This is what people like DHL, UPS, Royal Mail, most postal services will use, because all they want their end users to do is capture a signature. They don't want them doing anything else on the device. So it's ability for an IT manager to control what's going on the devices, which is great for them, because on these new shiny devices, obviously, people can press all sorts and do all sorts of things and tend to break the devices. In a kiosk mode, you actually are controlling what is happening. So in a few seconds, this will switch now to this kiosk mode, and it is permanently on the device. If a device is booted off and then rebooted, it will automatically load into this new desktop. It is an HTML template, so it can be customized exactly how you want it. So this can be removed, this can be removed. You can have your logo, so whatever it may be. So it's great for branding purposes. If you have sales teams out in the field, you can have your brand still all over the company mobile. But you can have one app or you can have 15 apps, completely up to you. But it means the end user can only do what you've given them access to do. So if they go into Maps, obviously it will take them into their Google Maps. But as soon as they press the home key, it will take them straight back to this new desktop. So very, very powerful. We also disable the soft keys, so the only person who has access to it is the administrator, and we can disable the USB debugging, so they can't try and overwrite this system. So great for controlling what's going on in the devices. Great for less tech-savvy end users, because they're not afraid now. They just know the buttons they got to press. Also really good for asset management, because what we have is we have a lot of companies in the UK, for example, who know that their devices should never ever leave the UK. So all they will do is put a geofence around the UK, and I'll show you geofence in a second, and they'll run a simple policy to say, if this device leaves this geofence, automatically put it into a different folder. So they might have another folder here with kiosk mode, lost or stolen. And all that will happen is they'll have a template with their company logo, and underneath they might write something to say, this phone is lost or stolen, please call this number. And as I showed you with our phone call policy, we can make it that that number is the only number dialable from the device. So really, really powerful for that. I'm just going to move this out. Excellent. So as I've just mentioned, geofencing, I will come on to one of our bigger things, which is obviously our location services. So one of the things we can do is locate devices. So all I need to do, and you'll see I've got all these options. We always say in Mobi Control, if you're ever lost, just right-click. It's as simple as that. So if I right-click on a device or a folder, it brings up all sorts of options. One of them being location services. So if I go to locate, it will take a few seconds because I'm indoors in a stone house, but there you go, straight away. So it'll populate with my device. If I did this on a folder level, so it's maybe a sales team, it would just populate with all the devices within that folder on my map. I can then do all sorts of things with this. So when we locate via 3 methods. We do it via GPS module, which is obviously the most accurate, and all we do is ping the GPS module and get the longitude and latitude settings. With Android Plus devices, it's really, really clever because all it does is turn the GPS module on for that second, get the longitude and latitude, and then turn the GPS module off again. So it has absolute negligible effect on battery. We can also do it by Wi-Fi, and we can do it by network triangulation. Obviously, GPS module is going to be the most accurate. So we can locate a device, we can track a device, so we can set the system to say every 2 minutes, pull off that longitude and latitude settings. And then all it will do is put a lovely trail along the map of where that device has been. Every time that it pings the device for longitude and latitude, it will also get a speed stamp. So it will show how fast that device has been. So if you need to track how fast drivers are going or whatever it may be, it will give you that information as well. Not just Big Brother of seeing where everyone is all the time, but also a real good efficiency piece. Because if you do have a field workforce, it might be useful at the end of a week or end of a day, whatever, to run a report to show where all those devices have been. Just so you can see maybe whether people's areas are too big, if there's crossover of areas, what the kind of landscape looks like out there. So that's a really, really powerful thing. And then as I just mentioned, we can also do what's called a geofence. So I can dive into my device. I can go as detailed as I want. So I could go right down to building level if I wanted. And then all I do is create a geofence. So I can put a geofence around an area, call it whatever I want. And there you'll see a geofence is now created. I can now run all sorts of policies based on this geofence. It could be as simplistic as soon as the device enters this geofence, automatically publish it Wi-Fi settings. Or it could just be that you want an alert. So every time a device enters or exits a geofence, you just get an alert on the system to say this device has left this area or entered this area. We can also send a message to the user on their device saying, welcome to this area, whatever it may be. So it can be as granular as you want or as open as you want. We can be even more granular in the sense that we can do it that if a device enters a geofence or exits a geofence, we can do a certain policy to say, if it enters the geofence, move the device from this folder to this folder. So automatically you'll move the device to the new folder and then run the policies based on the new folder. So it could be that if you're doing around an office, as soon as the device enters the office, 1, it gets published to Wi-Fi settings automatically, but 2, it might also automatically remove certain applications like Facebook, Twitter, whatever it may be. So a very, very powerful tool. You can have as many geofences as you want on a map. You can have as big a geofence as you want, as small a geofence as you want. You can have a geofence within a geofence. We're finding a lot of customers are using geofence as well for roaming. So they might put a geofence around Germany, for example, and just say, as soon as the device enters this geofence, automatically turn off roaming data, only allow Wi-Fi access, whatever it may be. So very, very scalable, which is important. Also, talking about Wi-Fi and controlling Wi-Fi, the biggest issue for IT managers in today's world is the uptake of people bringing in personal devices into work. It always happens, someone brings in an iPad, an iPhone, an Android, or whatever device it may be. The first thing they do is go to an IT manager and say, can you give me the Wi-Fi username and password? Or can you give me my email exchange server settings? The IT manager might give it to that one person. What will happen is they'll pass that to a colleague, to a friend, to another colleague, to a mother, to a dog, whatever it may be. And before they know it, they've got thousands of devices hitting their network, which they have absolutely no control over. What Mobi Control will do is we actually have a dashboard And within the dashboard, we can see all sorts of things. So it gives nice little reports on all sorts of stuff. But one of the key things it does is it automatically detects jailbroken or rooted devices. So if a jailbroken or rooted device hits the network, we will automatically quarantine that device. And by quarantine, we mean we will block it from getting Exchange server settings, and we will block it from getting Wi-Fi access. The biggest issue with rooted devices, particularly on Android, is it makes them more susceptible to viruses and malware. The last thing any company wants is someone to bring a personal rooted device in and spread a virus across the whole network. So for best practice, an IT manager would hide the Wi-Fi network, hide the Wi-Fi settings, automatically publish them to the devices that are on Mobi Control and approved. No one else gets them. Then if they see a rooted device and it's quarantined, it will show up in an orange box saying quarantine. They can check that device, and then they can say, yes, let it pass, or no, kick it off the network. So we just add that extra level of security for the network, which is really, really important. On the actual device itself, you will see here we have an agent called Mobi Control. This agent has to be on the device because it's the agent that talks to the network or the server. So it's the agent that connects with the server and pulls down the information it needs. We also have some added functionality within the agent. So we have things like an application catalog. So again, it might be important for a company that they say, actually, we don't mind our users having certain applications, but we want to control where they get them from. So they can essentially populate their own catalog with their own applications. It can be a Google Play application store, an Apple application store, or it can be an enterprise application store, whatever is easiest for the company. The other thing we have, which is really cool, is something called content library. So again, essentially, we can put a drive or a folder on a server, and all documents can be put in this folder, and then they can be pushed out to whatever groups that they want to be pushed out to. Really simple, almost become like a SharePoint within the server. You can search on it, so you can find the documents you want, you can filter, whatever it may be. But the great thing about the content library on Mobi Control is it's completely secure. You can run all sorts of policies on these documents to say things like this can't be cut, it can't be pasted, it can't be forwarded, it will automatically delete after a day, whatever it may be. So it's absolutely secure within this content library. So if a salesperson or something goes to a meeting and then leaves their phone behind afterwards and it's got sensitive documents on it, all the IT manager needs to do is go on and delete that policy to that phone. It won't wipe the whole device, it will just wipe off all the emails, all the documents, and keep that device secure. When they go back, pick up the device, they just reapply that policy and all those documents will be re-put back on the device. So just a really clever way of controlling it. We are still the only MDM company who actually put an agent on an Apple device as well. And within the agent on the Apple device, we also have things like the content library and the application catalog. So that's quite a key thing. So that's pretty much Android Plus. As I said, with Android, the only difference is you don't get remote control. So there's no remote control function on a generic Android device. If we move to Apple, with Apple, we can do a heck of a lot, actually. You probably appreciate that Apple are quite a controlling company, and they pretty much dictate to the MDM world what we can and cannot do on a device. So it kind of means we're all in the same boat with Apple. There are some key advancements, so things like the fact that we put an agent on the Apple device. That's unique for us. So the content library is better on ours and just gives more functionality. But everything else is quite generic. But as you can see, we can still do a lot. So we still have our application run control. We can still do things like restrictions. So get rid of the camera, FaceTime. A really important one they've added in version 11 is being able to hide the control center in the lock screen or the notification center in the lock screen. Because with an Apple device, it always happened that you had the phone locked, but you got an email or a text message, it will still pop up on the main screen so anyone could read it. So we've been able to remove that now, which is really, really important. They've also added some really good functionality on Apple. So single app mode is their essentially kiosk mode. So if you're running an enterprise application, maybe a field force piece of software or a CRM or whatever it may be, and that's the only application your end users need to use, well then essentially you can lock the phone into a single app mode. So they only run that application and they can't do anything else with the device. We also now, new to version 11, have a web content filter on Apple. And this works across all browsers within Apple, and it's exactly the same as what I showed you on Android Plus. We can integrate with AD on Apple via a secure LDAP connection. And then a new thing they've also added with Apple is a VPN per app. And this is a little bit like app wrapping. So it's the ability to have an application and just lock down that application. So when a user is in it, if any other banners appear in it or any advertising, normally you can click on that advertising, it will take you to another link, and then they can go all over the place. This will just lock those out. So there's nothing else they can do within the app apart from what the application allows itself. So that's quite a cool thing. The big difference with Apple is, again, with Apple devices, we can't do this remote control functionality. So like I've shown you with Android Plus, we get full two-way, full remote control. Apple do not allow that functionality. What we have done with Apple is we've provided what's called an SDK. So if anyone has an enterprise application, they can build our SDK into their enterprise application, which will allow them to do what's called remote view or remote shadowing. Essentially, when the end user is in that application, they will be able to see it on their screen here, exactly the same. They won't be able to control it. They will just be able to watch what the end user is doing. As soon as the end user presses the home key, that session will end, because it can only be done while they're in that application. And that's one of the restrictions with Apple. But apart from that, there is still a heck of a lot that can be done with Apple. So it's still great in that sense. If I come onto Windows Phone, you'll notice a massive change. So Windows Phone 8 is very new to Microsoft, very new to the MDM world. It will evolve, as I say. In May, we hope that Microsoft will release a whole new load of APIs, which will allow us to do a lot more. Currently, this is all we can do on a Windows Phone 8 device. So very little. Even in feature control, it only allows you to disable an SD card and enable device encryption. Essentially, Microsoft have viewed Windows Phone 8 as a BYOD device, not a corporate liable device. So obviously, it allows full integration into AD servers, Wi-Fi policies, ability to wipe the device, but that's about it. There aren't the advanced controls we have on Apple or Android Plus. But as I say, that's going to grow. So the downside of Windows Phone 8 is there's very little you can do. The plus side is there's no one who can do any more. Everyone's in exactly the same boat. So it's not like a customer can say, I'm going to go somewhere else because they can do more. They can't. Everyone does exactly the same on Windows Phone 8. And I'm not going to show you the other ones, but Windows Desktop and Laptop, we can do things like the remote control functionality. We can do the kiosk mode. We can do deployment of applications. So all the real core stuff on a Windows device. And then obviously Windows Mobile, we can do everything we can do on Android Plus. So we've got that full functionality. So that's kind of the major console, the main console. Just to show you the things at the bottom, what we can do. So obviously we have our Rules tab, and I've kind of shown you things like the package deployment, application catalog we have, the file sync, device relocation, data collection. We can do alerts on absolutely anything, custom attributes, whatever it may be. If there's an alert that you need on a regular basis, we can do that, whether it's things like as soon as a battery goes less than 10%, alert the system, whatever it may be. One of the new things we've added is telecom expense management. And this is really key for allowing companies to control their budgetary spend. One of the big issues with the networks is they run about 24 hours behind what actually is happening on a network, on a device. And so you get quite a lot, often, build data shock, because all that will happen is an end user might hit their 500 megabyte limit, the network won't know for 24 hours, and in that 24-hour period, an end user could rack up quite a big bill, maybe streaming Sky Sports, BBC iPlayer, whatever it may be. So all we do is give the control back to the customer. So you can add your own plan, whether it's a corporate group plan or an individual plan, put in your minutes, your data, when the bill cycle starts, how often it cycles for, and then we can do what's called a soft and a hard threshold. So it might be that you have a 500 megabyte limit. When the device hits 250 megabytes, we might send a message to the device user saying you are getting close to your limit. And that will just pop up on the device as soon as they hit 250 megabytes. We could also send an email notification to someone to say this device is getting close to its limit. We can also do a hard threshold. So a hard threshold might be that as soon as they hit their limit, we relocate that device. And then we can push it out to a different folder, and that folder might have a policy set up to say remove data, only allow Wi-Fi access, whatever it may be. The great thing with Mobi Control is because we are pinging the device live all the time, we are up to the minute, up to date. So as soon as that device hits its limit, it will be cut off. So we can control the budgetary spend in that sense, which is awesome. If I look at reports, this is also obviously a really key thing. So Mobi Control comes with SQL database for all the back end. We also use Crystal reports for all our reporting, and we can provide the schema for that so that you can create your own custom report. But you'll see that we pretty much have a report on everything. This has been developed over years and years of customers asking us for specific things. So whatever it may be, whether it's telecom data usage, out of contact report, installed applications report, whatever it may be, you can run a report on absolutely anything that happens on the devices. Again, new with version 11, which is a great thing, is we now do scheduled reporting. So you can say every Monday morning at 9 a.m., I want a report automatically generated of the installed applications, and I want it emailed to whoever. So every Monday morning, Mobi Control will run that report and email it to whoever you set it to be emailed to. So really good just for keeping an overview of what's going on your estate at any time. Really powerful tool. And the last thing I want to show you is what I mentioned right at the beginning, is our multi-user access or multi-tenancy. So we can have as many users as we want. So we can just assign a new user and give them control or access to whatever we want, as little or as much as we need to. So it might be in an organization, you have an IT team, a junior support team, whatever it may be. Obviously, you're not going to want the junior support people when they log in to be able to do things like wipe devices, change configuration, delete devices. So you'll give them access to the system, but you won't allow them to do all sorts of things. And as I've said, we can also go right into the group level, and we can say, actually, they only have access to these devices in this folder. So when they log in, they will only see this folder and only see those devices. And again, you can decide how much control they have within those folders. So it might be they can only manage the groups. They can't do anything else. So really, really powerful tool. Excellent. And that is a very, very quick overview of Mobi Control. I appreciate it's a real high-level overview, and I could be here for days going through every single configuration and policy, but I really don't want to bore you. So I've given you kind of the key features and the key overview of each of the different operating systems, and I hope you can see how powerful this product is and how scalable it is, so it can do pretty much as much or as little as you want. Are there any questions at all?
Hi Andrew, thanks for that. Yes, I do see a couple of questions. So let's test out the audio feature. I'm going to unmute Dino, who I believe has a question. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yeah, very good. Question I thought which could arise is, in the event of a phone being locked out, by installing another chip, would that preclude the capability of the mobile control being active or usable?
When you say another chip,
By that I mean another SIM being put into the device.
no, we are not SIM dependent. We have nothing. We don't touch the SIM card at all. We are device dependent. So
in other words,
even if someone removes a SIM card and changes it with another SIM card, the policies will stay exactly the same, because as long as Mobi control agent is on the device, it will always inherit the policies.
It takes absolute control. Okay, that's very good. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Dino. And I believe we have a question from James as well. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, I'm not sure if you meant me as James. The one question I was wondering, and I can't remember exactly what you called it, but when you were talking about these zones, how you can zone, or fence, I think is what you called it, if there is the possibility for conflicting fences, what is the precedent? For instance, if a phone, let's say if it's outside of Norway, that I would allow for international calls, but let's say that there was another conflicting fence. Let's say I was at a company building in another country, and then how does it figure out which fence to use if they conflict? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that is a very good question. I knew I'd get one today.
So I was the guy, right?
Yeah, that's good though. We like those kind of questions. So essentially, all that would happen is, we can put priorities on geofences. So when we actually manage the geofences, so where I showed you here on the map, we do a geofence. There's actually a section in Mobi Control where we then manage that geofence. So we can put priorities on it. So maybe it might be you put a geofence around Norway, and that's fine. When they leave Norway, you take off international roaming. But if they're going to another geofence within a geofence, we can put that as priority 1, as almost this overrides any geofence with it in the same conflicting area. And that will then take that policy and run that action. So that if it went into an office building within another geofence, that would become the priority, and it would take on the policies of that geofence.
Yep, okay. That kind of makes sense. I just think I need to see it a little bit deeper, but that's kind of the answer I was expecting, but I just needed to bring it up just in case.
No, definitely, and by all means, I mean, after this, I will share with Tom our kind of technical support details. So if you have anything specific you really want to see or really want to know, then by all means, we can get you in touch with them and we can set up a specific thing to show you.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
No, thank you.
Thank you, James. Dino, I see you have a hand raised. Do you have a follow-up question?
No, sorry. I didn't see it was still raised there. Sorry.
No problem at all. Thank you. Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have for now. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you to Andrew for giving an excellent demo. So hope you've enjoyed it, found it interesting, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you very much.